r/ask Reddit. What is a totally wrong thing that has become so widespread it's not considered wrong anymore? Spam email. We ignore it. It's just there, but it shouldn't be. I'd tack onto this one. Paper mail that you never asked for. It's a waste of resources. Been getting magazines, catalogs, advertisements and other solicitations in the mail and I've never once responded in any fortuitous way to any of them. Who actually indulges in that to inspire that potential return on investment? Really, it should be illegal to mail people trash. Employers expecting employees to check emails while outside of work. Years ago I had no idea email senders could get notifications if the recipient had received and read the email. I would just check work emails and pretend I never read them until I got back into the office the next day. Then my manager baited me into lying about not reading them. Never checked work emails for real after that. How? What email service? Your boss expecting that they can contact you at any hour. I had a pretty good boss who rarely contacted me outside of work hours unless it was important. I work 12-8 p.m. and stay out late. At 1 a.m. I get a phone call. Hey, everything okay? I'm really sorry to call. I stayed late to organize the storage closet, and I just locked myself out. I figured you'd be the only person with keys that might be awake. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I'm clocking you in for an hour for this. Yup. Your manager is awesome. And fair play you for helping out. Plastic everything packaged in more plastic. I work in retail and the amount of plastic and rubbish we get from the stock is horrendous. It's so depressing to see all the time. Yup, the plastic you see on the shelves is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of waste it produces. Well, I am not sure if it's actually wrong, but needing a few years of experience for an entry-level job just sounds pretty wrong to me. Yeah, companies seem to not differentiate between entry, let's say at most an internship beforehand, and low-level positions. 5 years experience. Honestly, that's just clueless HR workers trying to filter out the noise. No one actually expects entry-level positions to have years of experience. They just do this to reduce their workload by reducing applicants. 30 years ago, job applications was much more straightforward, but also a lot harder. To apply for a job in most places you would have to scour the local paper/job center recruitment agency for job ads, then either phone them to get more details or post a CV and covering letter to the organization. As such, most people only applied to roles they were serious about trying for, and most job adverts would only elicit a few responses. Nowadays, however, the fact that everything is online means that the barriers to apply for a job are much lower. Anyone can have a stock CV and covering letter ready for any position and just send it en masse to the HR team. Accordingly, HR has spent this time coming up with more and more convoluted ways to make it harder to apply to reduce the candidates they have to look at. As such, they will add lines like minimum 2 years experience of entry-level job, in order to reduce applicant numbers back down to a lower level, either by discouraging otherwise suitable candidates who ignore the role for not meeting the criteria, or by ignoring those applicants when they get too many. Making terms and conditions overcomplicated and long. Interestingly, because they're so long and dense, there have been several court cases in the US stating that they are not legally binding, since you are not expected to actually read it. Yep, you can't have any gotcha clauses hidden deep within the boilerplate. Companies have to show that any unusual terms and conditions were communicated in such a way that the consumer knew exactly what they were getting into. A job making you seasonal part-time but works you at least 40 hours every week, never giving you full-time wage or insurance. 39. 5 hours every week. I worked at a big box store that would send us home early if we were close to going over the old 39. 5. They would also have us take a day off in order to kill overtime if we had stayed late during the week. Harvesting as much data as possible. You have to go to some extreme lengths to prevent your personal information being sent to random strangers you have never met. For anyone with the aptitude, Pi-hole, you essentially set up a tiny PC and route all internet requests through it. Then give it a block list. Nothing connected to your network can complete requests to domains on the block list. Phone, PC, smart TV, washer/fridge, etc. Nothing. I honestly can't remember the last time I saw an ad, and it can block anything trying to phone home in the background as well. Bought a Samsung TV and setting it up required making a Samsung account. They know, by the time you unbox it and place it, that you have really no recourse but to relent and provide your account info, ducking extortion. Social media addiction. I can't quit anytime I want. Closes Reddit. Stares blankly at home screen before mindlessly opening Reddit again. I quit Facebook by deleting the app and bookmark. At least that makes a bit of a chore to log in and check it. Does anyone else think it's weird that we all know that our clothes, electronics, and pretty much anything else we buy is made by sweatshop or literally slave labor and everyone seems to be fine with that? Edit. Wow. I didn't expect so many people to read and respond to everyone saying there's nothing average people can do about it or asking me what average people can do about it. There are a few simple things you can do. Shop less. Don't buy things you don't need. Shop second hand. Take care of the things you do have. Make them last. Write your legislators and write corporations themselves and let them know that what they're doing is not okay. Not everyone can be perfect and do everything, but everyone can do something. Yes, what the duck? And worse, I'm not even sure what to do about it for the most part. I think that's the point though. I don't really think most people are fine with it. I think most people like you don't know what they are supposed to do. Often, but not always of course. We are actually paying reasonable prices for our clothing. The issue is that the lion's share of those profits are kept by the store distributor and only a tiny amount of the cost of an item actually makes its way to the manufacturer. Now I don't know what the solution to this is either, but I don't think it's something I as a consumer have much ability to influence. Also, I don't buy clothes that often. Having to accept cookies for every website. It's made purposefully difficult by companies so you will just accept it. There should be an implicit deny on the browser level. That just always blocks cookies outright. Edit. Wording wasn't very good. I obviously know we need cookies for session management and such. I meant an actual system to just deny unnecessary cookies, like tracking and other stuff. And yes, there is a system like that. Not a single website honors it. Well, I mean, you can disable cookies outright, but that will break virtually any stateful website. Having no regard for your mental health, peace of mind in the name of hustling. Funnily enough, having no work-life balance is flaunted. I've never taken a sick day. Yes, Kathy, I know. From the time you gave me the flu. Yep, not taking sick days when you're sick is just wrong. Our QA manager infected our whole office, 12 people, because he had pneumonia, or COVID. It was before the whole shitstorm became widely known, and couldn't take time off because he was needed. Poor dude was going to the hospital after work to get IVs just to be able to go back to work. I was the only one who didn't catch it. Somehow, the colleague next to me was off work for 3 weeks and another ended up in a hospital. Bosses threatening your job or hours if you call in sick or use vacation time at inconvenient times. Agree. Going to work sick was also one of the accepted wrong things. Hope mindset change now. I had a job 5 years ago where the boss was an a-hole. We were on a deadline on a project, but I was so sick I was hacking up stuff and generally gross. He told me to come in anyway, and when I got there he gave me cold medicine, like I didn't have medicine at home. Obviously I wasn't very productive and everyone had to stay away from me. It was ridiculous. And paid internships is incredibly wrong. I'd say the way OT is mandatory in the trades world. What's even worse, paying for an internship. That's a thing. This has changed a lot since COVID, I'm assuming. But people going to work when they're sick. Not sure what it's like in the rest of the world, but I feel like in the US we've been conditioned to feel like it's worse to be an inconvenience by not showing up to work than going to work sick, miserable and getting everyone else sick. Edit. Just wanted to add, I am not trying to attack those who can't afford to take time off. I absolutely understand that that's a reality for a lot of people. I get that many times there is no good choice. There are also times where paid sick time is available, but workers are bullied into feeling like they can't take time off or honestly think their place of work can't survive without them. That's BS. Yeah, I remember working in food service and trying to call out sick and the managers arguing with you to come anyway if you couldn't find someone to cover the shift. Theoretically you could expose not only co-workers, but tons of customers. Great company policy there. I don't know about everywhere in America, but it certainly hasn't changed anything at my place of employment. If anything, it's made it worse, because now they just say, well, it's not covered so I'm fine. Short-term diet culture. Gonna consume nothing but lemonade for a week straight. I definitely know what I'm doing. Go to get rid of those toxins and rejuvenate your cells, girl. Cost of higher education. And not just the initial costs. The scam on books is despicable. The sexualization of our youth on social media and the algorithms that reward them and promote it. For young girls, it's even just finding clothing that doesn't make them look older than they are. Have an 11-year-old girl who's tall for her age, but it's very hard to find kid clothes. It's like the clothing industry has conspired that it's time for her to dress sexy. Shorts and shirts are made very short, and in the kids section recently, the new thing is athletic pants but with a matching crop top, in sizes as small as XS meant for like 6-year-olds. You can find some things, but it's absurd how hard you need to look to make them feel like a kid. When I was in middle school, it felt like every piece of clothing in stores was either geared towards people who were much older or much younger. Like you're either wearing jeans with sparkly pink pockets or shorts that show your butt. Using your children to become an influencer. I have an Instagram page where I share play ideas as an educator, but my kids' faces are never in the photos. I don't mention their names either. So many parents with similar accounts are posting daily numerous photos and videos of their kids to thousands of followers and getting them involved in live feeds and stories. We have got a generation of kids who in 10-15 years time will have their entire childhood documented online, and it will all have been done without their consent. Edit. Thank you so much for all the upvotes and awards. I am just glad to see it isn't just me, as Insta seems to be full of oversharing mums. I was beginning to think it is just me who treats my children like they are in the witness protection scheme. In my country we have this very famous couple of influencers who literally film their child all day long. Everything is documented and posted on Instagram. Now they just had a second baby, and their child, who's 2 maybe, is madly jealous. Yet they keep filming him and posting videos where this child is throwing tantrums and crying because he hates his sister. I'm so disgusted by it. Just leave your child alone. Let him have a normal childhood without being constantly at the center of strangers' attention. I'm so worried about both those children. Open bracket. For your information, I don't follow them. I don't care about them. I even block them so I wouldn't have to see them. But they're super famous here, so I know everything because everyone keeps talking about them. Websites selling personal information by default. Being proud of and bragging about a lack of sleep as if it's some sort of virtue. Or working yourself till you are burned out. Like if you are not giving it 100% all the time, you are lazy. And when you finally crash and burn due to lack of sleep and exhaustion from working constantly, you are not hard enough. Arguments being verbal battles meant to be won, not a ducking aunt. Arguments are discussions with the objective of reaching a truth or consensus. It's not about dunking on your interlocutor or asserting your beliefs over theirs. Also, if I stutter or can't speak my thoughts clearly, that doesn't mean you're right or you've won the argument. I just can't speak properly in that moment for WTV reason. This is an underrated point. I absolutely hate that people bulldoze other people when the other person just can't articulate, or not native tongue, or in my case work with mostly maths PPL who aren't good with language words. Ducking, calm down. Winning by default doesn't mean much, edit, and PPL communicate differently too. Some PPL are better over text when they've had time to think. Some PPL are better face to face. Some people have phone anxiety. Some people are socially anxious overall. If you have some finesse, you can totally work with these people and around their shortcomings. Taking pictures of strangers who aren't doing anything wrong or untoward just to post up on social media with some snark or judgment. In middle school I was very overweight. My body is very weirdly built and I carry fat around my lower back and I have a small butt. I'm a guy, mind you, and so I had trouble pulling my pants up all the way. So one time I sat down at the cafeteria with my friends and this prick behind me takes a picture of my ass crack and shows the whole table, who proceeds to laugh and point at me. I can still feel the embarrassment to this day. Edit. I never understood why people edit their comments to say thanks. I thought it seemed kind of pretentious, but now I see why. It's great to relate. But I'm sorry to anyone who experienced bullying. Thank you all so much for your great stories and kind words. Talking on speakerphone while in a public place. Seriously, duck you. Or who play their Bluetooth speakers on trails and other natural places. Literally the last place people can go to get away from modern noise. OMG, in the city I've seen people walking around with their Bluetooth speakers blasting music. They'll do it on the street, on trains, and even on the bus. Like WTF, just wear headphones. We all don't want to hear your music. Believing lies because it supports your worldview. This comment is funny because everyone automatically assuming it's only the other side. And what's equally wrong is that people who believe lies is a profitable market for shitty media programs and personalities willing to continue and spread said lies. Photoshopping and social media. Sure, let me Photoshop myself into a completely different looking person and receive all praise as if it actually validates me. I'm a designer and I Photoshop images for work sometimes. Once people learned that I'm pretty good at it, so many people ask me to Photoshop their photos for the most mundane reasons. You look great the way you are. Life is not ideal. It kills me so much on the inside when my friends ask me to Photoshop their photos to make them look less flawed, and now I absolutely refuse to do it. How Western nations ship their garbage to small Southeast Asian islands and call it recycling. Like 98% of Americans don't know this. I am American and I did not know this. The confusion between then and than. Who's and whose. It's and it's. Edit. How ironic. I actually wrote it's and it's. Lose and loose. How much material classified as recyclable is, in truth, not recyclable. It's more a marketing win that kept people using plastics. Why else would China stop taking the world's trash? They could do nothing with it but bury it in the ground. Perfect attendance being celebrated for kids. When my kid is sick, he stays home. He's healthy too. I can't imagine having a kid with a disorder that makes them prone to being sick more often and then not getting some shitty little award for not being in school every day. Kids get sick. It's not wise to send them to school anyway so they can spread their germs. Schools push attendance because butts in seats is one of the factors that the government uses when deciding how much funding schools get. The customer is always right. I actually looked into this as I was curious, and honestly, when it was first a thing it did make sense. It just doesn't make sense now. So to explain, the customer is always right or gone, and it's back when buyers beware is also a thing. When quality control and uniformity wasn't really a thing, so you could buy a brand new vacuum slide from the store that is missing part of the motor so doesn't work. The customer is always right was started by a single store, and it was the slogan meant to mean if the customer said the store sold them a defective product, then the customer was. Naturally this took off and made the store a huge success because it gave customers peace of mind about their purchases, which made the idea take off. In modern times, where the chances of getting a defective product is extremely unlikely, it no longer fits and was also never supposed to apply to anything else except returns really to begin with. Sadly, the reason the phrase exists is long gone, but the mentality remained. Using your real name on the internet. Pigeon. Flashing used to be illegal. Now every woman gets dongs and their DMS from strangers. Edit. I must have hit the nail on the head for this one considering the replies. Yes, I meant unsolicited nudes. No, I don't think that flashing and e-flashing have the same immediate threat, but I do think that e-flashing is still threatening and worth criminalizing. If this is a problem that every woman deals with online, then it's obviously time to let the law in. Yes, the law gets abused with false reporting. We still have laws. If you disagree with how nudity is natural and not a big deal, then you aren't looking at the reality of our culture now. Getting consent is really easy for nudists. This is barely even a related argument. Ask for consent. I'm sure it still is, but the law hasn't kept up to date with technology. Could have instead of could have. I wholeheartedly agree. But allow me to play devil's advocate here for a moment. For all intensive purposes I think you are wrong. In an age where false morals are a dime a dozen, true virtues are a blessing in the skies, we often put our false morality on a pedestal like a bunch of prima donnas. But you all seem to be taking something very valuable for granted. So I ask of you to muster up all the strength you can, because it is a dog-eat-dog world out there. Although there is some merit to what you are saying, it seems like you have a huge ship on your shoulder. In your argument you seem to throw everything in but the kids and sink. And even though you are having a field day with this, I am here to bring you back into reality. I have a sixth sense when it comes to these types of things. It is almost spooky, because I cannot turn a blind eye to these glaring flaws in your rhetoric. I have zero tolerance when it comes to people spouting out hate in the name of moral righteousness. You just need to remember what comes around is all around. And when supply and command fails, you will be the first to go. Make my words. When you get down to brass tacks, it doesn't take rocket appliances to get two birds stoned at once. It's clear who makes the pants in this relationship, and sometimes you just have to swallow your pride and accept the facts. You might have to come to this conclusion through denial and error, but I swear on my mother's mating name that when you put the pedal to the metal you will pass with flying carpets like it's a peach of cake. Maybe this is just a me thing, but as someone who is adopted I am really bothered by adoptive parents who lie to their kids. I think starting your relationship with your child based on a lie is completely wrong, and it will come back to bite you later. Unfortunately, some parents who cannot biologically have children will choose to supplement this by adopting a kid and telling that kid they gave birth to them. This needlessly stigmatizes adoption by making it a shameful secret, while also making sure that if this child finds out later in life, they will resent their parents 100% and never trust them again. It's just awful. My parents were completely transparent with me from a really young age and I grew up well. I love my parents and personally have no desire to ever meet my biological mother. Every adopted kid is different, but they all deserve to be told the truth. Crimes as long as you have money, and I don't mean that you can pay lawyers or something. Sometimes it just looks that you are just allowed to be a criminal if you just have money. Fines mean legal for the rich. Talking on the phone loudly wherever you happen to be. No one steps away anymore or even acts embarrassed when on the phone in public. Drives me crazy. Banks charging you fees to use your own money. This is just one among many other practices that are wrong. Taking pictures of random people and turning them into memes. I hate them. There seems to be a lot of pictures circulating on Facebook of people who are very obese, very underweight, or not stereotypically attractive, with things like your third aunt has to go on a date with this person. The comments are usually really cruel. That is a photo of an actual person. Can you imagine if hundreds of thousands of people were mocking you on a photo? Disgusting. On the plus side, when I see these, it helps me easily identify dongheads I no longer want to associate with. Tying your health insurance to your work. USA. If you become too sick to work, example, terminal cancer, you lose your job and your healthcare coverage. Dental not being included in healthcare. How is the health of your mouth and teeth separate from the health of the rest of your body and necessitate totally different and pricey insurance? That bats can't see. Bats have perfectly functioning eyes that are just as good if not better than ours. Are you sure? I'm genuinely curious now, because I've always been told that bats use echolocation to hunt because of poor eyesight. Yet that's the exact thing that's wrong. They have perfectly good eyesight, but they are nocturnal and hunt at night. Sometimes in pure darkness. The echolocation helps them hunt at night. The fact that many big corporations just don't pay taxes. It seems to be common knowledge, but no one seems to be doing anything about it. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.